Hi, in this video I'm going to be going over the modifications I made to my Ascend 133X kayak. Now I've nicknamed it the Transformer because it's going to have three basic configurations for use. The first will be the stock bow-mounted trolling motor, the second will be a stock transom-mounted trolling motor, and the third will be a transom-mounted trolling motor with foot pedal steering and a PWM. And of course you could also run combinations of these if you wanted to. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. This is the paddling configuration for this kayak. This is the setup just using the bow-mounted trolling motor, and you'll have a better view of what the stern mount looks like when you use the other configurations. This is the tiller with the extension configuration. This is the transom stern mount trolling motor configuration with the foot pedal steering. This is the setup for the stern mounted trolling motor with foot pedal steering. Now it's a design I've used before, so I will post video links in the narrative section showing how to put these certain parts together. And I used the existing recessed areas in the kayak hull itself that were probably for some type of rudder kit. And then I added these pad eyes on top of them because what that does is helps guide the control lines straight into the tubing. Otherwise they might rub through the tubing and actually rub on the kayak the way this is set up. So this will keep any damage from happening. So let's go ahead and just pull the foot pedals and you can see it turn. So that's it. Of course it'll be a little bit easier to turn it with my feet than just pulling it across with my hands, but it works very well. This is the front view of the foot pedal steering where I have the tubing going through the midsection of the kayak and then attaching to the pedals itself. So what I did here on the pedal is I removed the brakes from each side and drilled a little hole in this little edge here so I could run my 2mm Dyneema cord through it. And then I just knot it off in here so it stays nice and tight. And then of course you have to adjust everything, which is another one of those try and try again kind of techniques. So this is where the front of the tubing comes out, and I'll put the link to how to get that to work. And normally what I like to do is have the cord or control line parallel with the foot pedals, and as you can see here, this goes up at a slight angle, and the reason for that is I needed to run the tubing in the upper section of the hull so it would go through without too many twists and turns, because that puts more drag on your pull when you're trying to turn your kayak. So as you can see here, that's where I have it coming out, but it still works just fine. I wanted to go over my battery box for this kayak, and I've got your standard milk crate here that I have everything mounted in, and here I have a 75 amp hour AGM gel battery, and it's strapped here in the front, and then I have some foam on either side to hold it in place. Then in the back here I have my PWM that I made from a Traxxas control board, and I will also list that build video in the narrative section. And then from the PWM, it's going into this 50 amp circuit breaker, and then this is going to be going into the S motor port to run it when I have the trolling motor I want to use with the PWM, which is the foot pedal steering one. Then I also have this connector here, which is straight to the battery, but it also has a 50 amp circuit breaker in line, and I'm going to use that just when I run the bow mounted trolling motor. I'll plug that directly in and it'll be ready to go. Now for any of the configurations I run, I'm going to be using my Yak Power, and this is the connector that goes to that I mentioned earlier. So that's why I labeled everything. It helps kind of keep it straight, but I know which one is supposed to go where. These are the power connections for this kayak. And on the right side, you can see I have a Y power, which goes to the Yak Power accessories setup. And what I'm going to do is run it off the same battery as the trolling motors. I've never had an issue with any interference before, and that way I don't have to carry another battery up in the front. And it's also got a different type of SAE connector, which is more of a rectangular one, so you won't get it confused when you're out on the water. In the center, that is the stock bow mount trolling motor connector, and you would go directly from the battery into that. And then the last one on the left is for the stern mount trolling motor, or the transom trolling motor that I have set up for the PWM, or digital speed controller, and the foot pedal steering. And that is where we'll plug in the output from the PWM to power the stern mounted trolling motor. This is how I set up my Yak Power sending unit. What I did was, after rewiring everything inside, that I took a piece of poly cutting board, sized it to the unit, and then attached the unit to it with a zip tie. And then I just took some VHB double stick tape and attached the cutting board to the interior of the hull, and everything holds in there nice and snug. This is the stock transom mount trolling motor on the stern with the tiller extension and the Motorguide bow mounted trolling motor configuration. And you can see that because I have a swivel on the seat, that you can reach the tiller handle to easily control this. This is the configuration with the stern mounted trolling motor using the PWM and the foot pedal steering, along with the Motorguide wireless XI3 bow mounted trolling motor. So I'll just give a close-up of the overall of this setup. I will include the link for the trolling motor setup for this configuration. So that's it. If you have any questions, please leave them for me in the comments. Thank you.